Welcome back to the show, my fellow exploring Americans. For today's guest, we have Ralph Brown. Ralph is a financial advisor, entrepreneur, speaker, and has a passion for the boating business. He's the president of Dreamboats Global Inc., as well as the president and founder of CupRoyale, which is creating the first annual powerboat race around the world. Ralph also holds four world records in boating, which are smallest powerboat to cross the Atlantic Ocean, longest nonstop ocean voyage in a flats boat, longest unescorted ocean voyage in a flats boat, and the first flats boat to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Ralph has gone through many successes and failures in the field of business and has always pushed forward in spite of what others thought. He's an extraordinary American, and I'm honored to have him on the show. Ralph, are you there?
Yes, I am. And I'll pay you $5 for that interview again.
Thank Ralph, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this show. It's really my honor to have you. Ralph, I know you're an entrepreneur, you've been a financial advisor, and you're in the boating business. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Well, in a nutshell, I'm a former prior service U.S. Marine. I got out of the Marine Corps and I went to college, and I ended up being a school teacher. And then when we started having babies, the check I was getting as a school teacher and the bills at the end of the month were kind of difficult to make ends meet. So I started looking for other work, and I ended up in the financial planning industry, which I absolutely loved. It was just a really good job. I got to deal with basically about 20 homes a week, somewhere around 1,000 homes a year that you would go to. And you get to meet people and hear all their backgrounds, just to meet a wide variety of people. And I'd help them do their long-term financial planning. I would do their life insurance, sometimes health insurance as well. But it was a good job. I loved it. But then one day I was out boating with my kids, and it was a day after Thanksgiving. And you have to understand, I absolutely hate shopping. And this is the day after Thanksgiving. My wife likes to go shopping. So we have two boys and a daughter. I took the two boys and went camping. And she took my daughter and went shopping. But we were out camping and boating, and we hit a rock and we broke the motor. I got pretty pissed off. I thought, we can put a man on the moon. We can't make a boat go over the top of these rocks and still be safe on the high seas. And I'm thinking, this is, I had no idea that was going to be a pivotal point in my life at that time. But it just ruined my day of fishing. But I got to stewing about that and just stewing about it. I can't believe we can't make a boat that does both. Run in super shallow water. I'm talking really shallow, over the top of rocks, and still be safe on the high seas. You see, boats made for big waves run aground in shallow water. Okay. And boats that are made for shallow water tip over and kill their passengers out at sea. And so this was just something I stewed about. Then my wife was in a car wreck, and she ended up having major hospitalization. And to this day, she's got some serious health problems from that car wreck. And I had 3 small kids and a sick wife. And my boss was wanting me to drive 4 hours a day, or he wanted me to stay in a hotel in another town. But I decided I didn't want to stay at the hotel. I wanted to go home every night. So I'd go home and kiss my wife and kids every night instead of missing them in the hotel. So I got to stewing about how to make a better boat. And it gradually became an unbelievable passion, where everywhere I went, I'm diagramming boats, doing calculations. I have a pretty strong physics background from my time in the Marine Corps. I got a really good job in the Marine Corps, heavy electronics, heavy physics. And so, and you think in the Marine Corps, you learn to shoot a rifle. Yes, I did all of that. Every Marine shoots a rifle. But I got to learn about laser guided bombs before they came out. I got to learn about, someone's got to fix them before they even came out. They sent me to school on them. I got to go to school for all this torque, what I call torque and pressure, but torque and anyways, pressure and torque calculations and all of that kind of stuff. All of those things, all those aircraft use a lot of that stuff. I got to work on terrain clearance, okay, where planes would fly themselves over the terrain. So if you're flying at 500 miles an hour, you're moving 733 feet per second. Okay, that's 3.5 football fields in a second. Okay. Yeah. you're moving. And so if you're doing, at 1,000 miles an hour, you're going 1,466 feet per second. And, those all that stuff's got to work right. If it doesn't work right, you're going to be a spot on the countryside. And that's an old Marine Corps joke. If things don't go right, I'm a spot on the countryside. You're dead. Okay. But all those things have to work. So you have to have somebody fix all that kind of stuff. I got to go to school on all that stuff. I got to go to school on radars. I got to go to school. So that education really helped me a lot. And I could sit and do all kinds of calculations on napkins and papers, and everywhere I went, I just became this is before the phones were out like we have now. These phones everywhere that had a calculator on it. So the old phones didn't have it. So you basically do all your calculations stuff. And I was passionate about it. And one day my wife said, either do it or shut up. You are driving everybody nuts.
Wow.
Nobody believes you can do that. You're an expert in finance. You don't know anything about boats. Wrong thing to say to me. She went to bed. And that night I walked and stewed, and I got on the internet and I formed a corporation. And so we spent a lot of time trying to make a boat go in very shallow water and handle very rough seas. And we did a good job. We accomplished it. As you mentioned, I set 4 world records with one of the boats I built. And then we sold to the U.S. Army a couple of units. We sold to the National Park Service a couple of units, Federal Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, National Oceanic Atmosphere, sold to other countries halfway around the world. And people come to my shop and they go, well, you got to have a big shop doing all this. They come to, where's the shop? I say, you're here. Where is it? You're here. Because we're building things in a little canvas thing, but because we didn't have the money. We were doing all that. But I ran across a method to go a lot further using a lot less fuel. And the more I thought about that, I thought, well, I should demonstrate that to the world by breaking the world speed record for going around the world. See, a power boat record is 61 days. The sailboat record is 41 days. And most people go, see, oh, you did it just then. You seen your eyes. Your eyes went up to the top of your head like, huh? Okay, because that's what everybody does. They give that funny look like, huh? Powerboat 61 days, sailboat is 41 days. How's that possible? Well, it's called fuel. The sailboat doesn't have to stop to get any. The powerboat has to carry it and stop and get it. And so you're carrying a lot of fuel. And so powerboats have never beaten the record, the sailboat record ever. And so we intend to do that. And we got to looking at this, and we realized that the competition market, not the boat building market, but the competition market, was $1.1 trillion.
Wow.
That's the competition market.
1.1 trillion.
Trillion. And you go look, well, what's the biggest competition? In America, we think football is. Okay, and it is in America. But the largest football stadium of any kind, is the Michigan State Stadium, 112,000 people. That's a lot. It's bigger than all the NFL stations and NFL stadiums, all of them. Look at the raceway, Indianapolis Brickyard Raceway. When they put the extra seats in, holds 350,000 people. Huge difference between 112 and 350. Go, what's on TV? What's the most popular TV show in the world? Okay, well, it's not the NFL. People think, oh, it's got to be the NFL. The NFL, the average game is about 5 million people that watch it, which that's a big audience. 5 million people.
I would say if you were to ask me, like, I was born in India, so I would say cricket, because a lot of people in India watch cricket. But yeah, in America, it's usually the NFL and Formula One.
Well, Formula One worldwide, the average average race, over 100,000 people watch it, or about 100,000 watch it. Now, Americans, like we just had Formula One in Vegas just recently, and their audience was about 1.2 to 1.5, but it was also at 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night to 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty late, okay? And it was still over 1 million people stayed up and watched it. But when you add in the European audience, the Asian audience, and the African audience, all of that together. It's they all watch the same race. And when you add it all up, it's 100,000, 100 million people watch it. That's just insane. It's much, much bigger than football. And
Mhm.
go, and so you look at the boating crowds. The crowds that show up for boating are often as big as the football crowds, or bigger, or the racing crowds even. They're bigger than that, but they don't follow it on TV. You go, well, wait a minute, why don't they follow it on TV? With one exception. One race is followed all over the world. It's the America's Cup. And the America's Cup generates so much of a crowd, so much of an audience. It's covered all over the world that it actually changes the tourism that comes from it, changes the trajectory of a nation, of small nations.
Wow.
For instance, Bermuda, the nation of Bermuda, spent $66 million bringing the America's Cup to Bermuda. And as a result, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, they received $336 million worth of economic benefit. 336, 66 million paid out, 336 paid back, followed by the two largest years on record in the country, history of the country, of tourism. Okay, and Bermuda makes its money from three things. Bermuda makes its money from international banking, insurance, basically, and then they make it from tourism. So the rich people make their money from the insurance. It's called reinsurance, is what they are. They're reinsurance capital of the world, I think. Okay, companies that take a risk behind the scene, as far as that goes, and then international banking. It's real big there. But the rest of the country survives off tourism. And to have the two biggest years in the history of the country, that's changing the trajectory of the economy of a country from a boat race. The America's Cup.
That is amazing, actually. Like, I'm just like thinking about it, and yeah, you're literally affecting the lives of all the people in that country just through one industry, you know?
One race. One race. The race lasts, they have sections. It's actually about 2 weeks of racing. But that's all it is. You go, what? That kind. Now, what makes it different? One is they allow one team per country, kind of like the NFL's idea. The NFL lets one team per city. Okay, with two exceptions, New York and Los Angeles, because they're really big. But other than that, one team per city. In fact, most cities don't get one. If you want a team, you'd wait in line for a long time. Okay, and the teams are super expensive. So buying one's just $4.5 billion, $6 billion for a new team. That's a lot of money. But if you consider that, but the America's Cup is exclusive, one team per country. It's expensive, so only the top high-end people get involved in it. It's built for the top tier. It's built for the high end. Okay, that's a really big deal. Okay, and the sponsors come on board for that too. But you need that super exclusivity, okay, and you need that patriotic rivalry. Now, if anything has ever been proven in the history of 6,000 years of recorded history of this world, okay, ever been proved, is that men are willing to fight and die for their home country. I was one of them. I was in the Marine Corps. The first thing they make you memorize is your code of conduct. Article 1 of the Code of Conduct. I'm an American fighting man. I'm prepared to give my life for my God, my country, and the American way of life. I was one of them. And all throughout wars, all throughout history, men sign up and fight for their country. They don't even care if it's right or wrong in most cases. For instance, when I was doing financial services, I had an older German man as a client. And he spoke more German than English, and he was older. And I did some financial planning for him. And one day I asked him, okay, were you in Germany during World War II? And he said, yes, I was. I said, because he was, a male of fighting age in World War II. I asked him, did you fight in the German army? He said, yes, I did. And I said, did you know what you were doing was wrong? He said, yes, I did. And we often discussed it among ourselves, that we knew what we were doing was wrong. but we were doing it because it was going to make Germany a better place. We're doing it for the fatherland. Okay, we're doing it for Germany. For Germany, I'll die. For Germany, I'll kill innocent people. But it's a primal instinct that we have deep in our heart, deep in our soul, that says, I have a patriotic rivalry. And the America's Cup seizes on that patriotic rivalry. And if you can seize on that patriotic rivalry, okay, then your audience grows really big. And that's why World Cup soccer is so big. It's only every couple of years, okay, because everybody's cheering for their one country. That's why the Olympics is so big, okay, because everybody's cheering for their country. And that's why CupRoyale is going to be so big, because we're only letting one team per country. We're making it top tier, okay? Basically, with that patriotic rivalry, the top tier is for the super rich want to compete in it. And there's no shortage of gigantic egos out there. Okay, there's no shortage. None whatsoever. And a lot of them have 100 million plus. But if all you have is maybe $500 million, now we look at that as, wow, that's a lot of money. Go try and buy an NFL team with 500 million. They look at you and say, you're nuts. Come back when you have $6 billion and we'll talk to you. Okay. But till you have 6 billion, not 6 billion to spend, not 6 billion, but 6 billion to spend. Okay. All right. So you probably have to have 10, 20 billion to have 6 billion to spend. You know, when you have that kind of money, come back. So where do you go? You want a top tier team that represents a city or a country. Okay. But it's got to be top tier. It can't be a little league. It can't be a minor league. It's got to be the major league in that sport. It has to be top tier. It has to represent a city or a country. Where do you go if you only have a couple 100 million? You can't buy one. You go to Europe and buy a soccer team. What are the European soccer teams? 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 billion. What are the cricket teams in India now?
That's you have many, but you have the national cricket team.
Okay. If you get in the national, if you're you're buying the national team, what does it cost?
A lot, billions.
Okay,
Easily.
there you go. So you got $500 million. Where do you go? Well, I'm giving them an avenue. I'm giving them a place where they can buy a team and race in front of the whole world. And they got lots of egos, you know. So anyways, I could rattle on and on. I'm telling you about CupRoyale, and this is what CupRoyale is. But go ahead.
No, thank you. Like I'm just like amazed, like because like it's so big and it's a big event, and I can see it going super massive, and I'm just trying to like process all of that. But and so it's really amazing, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. You know, I would want my audience to know more about Cup Royale. But Ralph, there's a question I wanted to ask. Like during your time in the entire boating business, what is the biggest lesson you learned during your time in the industry?
Boy, I'm not sure that I could say that the biggest. I will say one of the biggest ones is to have the funding you need lined up before you stick your neck out. Okay, because I stuck my neck way out and I got it chopped off big time. But I learned so much in the process. Okay, and now I'm learning how to do this right. And so if you don't get your hand slapped, you don't learn anything. Okay, you don't stick your neck out, you don't learn. And I've learned a lot. And so the right people, you know, your team is made up of the right people. That's a big deal. The right kind of people helping you. That's a real big deal. Take care of your employees. Take care of your employees. Take care of your employees, because nobody's any better than your team. And that in teams, not just the board of directors, not just the officers, but it's the employees too. Okay. They're very, very important. If you spend a lot of time and money training somebody, do you want them to quit? No.
No.
And that's why we look at this. We were talking earlier about this minimum wage jump. Okay. You know, it used to be when I was a kid growing up in the 60s and 70s, McDonald's, all the McDonald's had nothing but teenagers working there. They're all high school kids. And they're all making $3 an hour, $2 and $3. In fact, $1.70, my first job. I washed dishes in Ramada Inn restaurant. I made, you know, $1.70 an hour. but those were kids' jobs. Those were not expected to be adult jobs. Okay. And the idea that adults going to go in there for a career, flip a hamburger, huh? That's insane. Okay. That's not a career at all.
Yeah.
Go get an education. And so, we're going to help these poor guys that can't afford $100,000 house because they're making $6 an hour at McDonald's. Let's raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Guess what? You raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, it has a cascading effect across everything. Me as an employer, I don't want to pay anybody minimum wage. I don't want them to quit. So if I've got to pay double minimum wage or triple minimum wage, okay, that because you want people to stay and not quit, because you're spending money and time and training them, and you don't want to start all over and go through money and time and training. You want them to be good workers and you want them happy. So you got to pay them double, maybe triple minimum wage. So if you're paying double $6 an hour, then that's $12 an hour, or $18 an hour, somewhere in there. And then you take it to $15 an hour, double that, it's $30 an hour. Triple that is $45 an hour. How does the small businessman pay that kind of wage to keep his people from quitting? It's hard. And you got to compete with people overseas that are working for 50 cents an hour like they used to work, or now $2 or $3 an hour. If you're competing with people overseas that are making $2 or $3 an hour, and you're paying $12 to $18 an hour, that's hard. Very, very hard. But now when you got to pay $30, $40 an hour, you want to compete with $2.50 an hour? That's insanely stupid. Okay? If you got a problem, the problem is you have an adult working for minimum wage. That problem is the adult is not trained. The adult doesn't have the skills. The adult doesn't have the power to get off minimum wage. The solution is education, motivation, okay? Education. So they can get a better job. And now maybe they can afford a $100,000 house, okay? Because they can get a better job. But guess what? If they can't afford a $100,000 house, you give them the difference between $6 or $7 an hour and $15 an hour, okay? Guess what? And that causes everything to cascade. And now the house that used to be 100,000 is now 350. They can't afford it either at $15 an hour. But guess what? A lot of those other people in the middle, they can't afford a $350,000 house either. But they used to be able to afford a $100,000 house. But caused by the cascading effects of raising interest rate. I'm sorry to get on such a tangent there. But I think
like this is actually something that I would want my audience to know, because this is really important, because Extraordinary America is about financial freedom, but we got to go to the root cause and we got to find a solution to it. And so there's a lot of politicians that are giving like solutions like raise the minimum wage, but the audience got to know why that's not going to work in the long term. Like, for instance, if you look at California, there's
if you go to San Francisco, they're the first ones in the country to have $15 an hour minimum wage. And just walk around the streets, there's people laying all over the streets that are homeless. Laying all over the place. They're homeless. They poop on the sidewalks. They urinate everywhere. Okay. You go to the doctor's office, the doctor pays an armed guard to escort you back and forth to your car, because all these people that are homeless will rob you. Not all of them, but some of them are. But crime is outrageous. Okay. They have people walking in the stores just stealing stuff and running out. Okay, and nothing you can do about it, because again, you destroy the ability of the lower guy to get to the next level. If you destroy that, they lose heart, and they lose heart. They're laying on the sidewalk getting food stamps and free food and they can't afford a place to live. Okay, it's just insane. The problem is not minimum wage. The problem is that adult doesn't have the skills and the knowledge to get to the next level. And that's my opinion, and I'll stick to it.
No, I
Okay?
mean, what you're saying is absolutely true, but it's kind of like large swaths of the country right now are relying on politicians to solve this problem, when it's actually you have to help the small business owners and the entrepreneurs in their ability to hire employees and basically do their job, do their business altogether. But sometimes like a lot of the policies are anti-entrepreneurship and anti-business, and
Oh
then
yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
You
no, no, go
disagree?
no, go ahead. Yeah.
When they started printing money and passing it out and giving people a paycheck to sit at home, and all of these small businesses couldn't get anybody to come to work because they're getting a paycheck to sit at home. Okay, that's insane. Okay, I'm not against some sort of unemployment. I'm not against that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about all these programs that they kicked in where they started printing money and passing it out to everybody. People don't want to go to work when they get free money. You have to be a real genius to figure this out.
But,
People.
but not just that, it eventually caused inflation in the year 2022. Like there was
Oh,
like food prices rose up, the gas prices rose up eventually. But ultimately, people are looking for like a long-term solution. So Ralph, to ask you a question, what do you think is like on a national level, what would be the solution around consumer debt and inflation altogether? Because right now, inflation was a big problem in 2022, and it will be a problem in the future at some
oh,
point.
inflation is not going anywhere. It's going to get worse. And I'm not sure I know a quick fix for it because I don't think there is a quick fix. But you've got to stop feeding the problem. Okay, if you've got a fire, don't throw gasoline on it. Okay, and more welfare, more free money to sit at home, more raising of minimum wages. None of those things fix the problem. And you can't fix a problem within our borders when you have no borders. What I mean by that is if you're taking to fix a problem inside the United States and the money that's being produced in the United States is going overseas for cheap labor everywhere, okay, that solution is not going to fix because you can't, the United States of America can't finance the whole world. Okay, you just can't. It's just not possible. And the idea that if we're going to take all of our jobs, and send them to China or send them to Mexico or Africa now, that's where they're going now to Africa because they can get super cheap labor in Africa. And the quality of the stuff coming out of Africa will be junk for 4 or 5 years. But 5 years from now, they're going to have a bunch of quality materials coming out of Africa. And all those jobs that went to Mexico and to China, they're going to go to Africa. Okay. And they're going to start having some of the same problems we're having because all those jobs are leaving. Because you can't fix a problem without shutting off the borders. You just can't. Okay, you've got to compete. If you're paying somebody $30-$40 an hour and you're competing with a guy making $3 or $4 an hour, it's
You
just
just can't do that.
ratio. You can't. It's just not going to work. You've got industry that produces wealth has to put that money back into the economy. And if we produce wealth in this country, and that wealth from basically from business, the economy of wealth coming in, that wealth has to stay here. Otherwise, if it just goes to China or goes to Mexico, it doesn't fix our economy. And that's where it has to be. Like for instance, here in Florida, you're a farmer. You're an orange grove farmer. Okay, you got orange groves everywhere. Florida was nothing but orange groves. You go back 20, 30 years ago. Orange groves everywhere. You have a really bad freeze one year. Okay, so you don't have very many oranges. So you want to raise the prices of oranges to offset it. Okay, and then next year you have a little bit more inflated prices too to offset it. The problem is we have NAFTA, North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. So all these oranges are coming in from Mexico. They didn't have a freeze in Mexico. So they're going to come in cheap. The American orange grove farmer, okay, he can't raise his prices to fix the problem.
Mhm.
He just goes out of business because you have to have, so you're going to have in good years and bad years in business. You've got to be able to fix the bad year with a good year following it. And if you've got all this stuff coming in from Mexico, it's no way to fix it. You can't fix it. Okay, you can't raise the price. You're just boom. So what's happened in Florida? Almost all the orange groves are gone. Almost all of them are gone.
Wow.
And it's just amazing. The world's #1 producer of oranges is out of business just about. Okay, and it's real poor stuff at the border. I could go on and on. It's just you can't fix the whole world. And if you're going to make Americans at their economy, that it's the economy that makes our country strong, compete with people that are willing to work for 50 cents an hour, $1 an hour, $2 an hour. And you can't take that $2 an hour to our economy. You can't buy a house on $2 an hour. You just can't.
So I think so like a lot of this outsourcing happened because the companies wanted to make more profits. Like if you look at the car industry in Detroit, like in the 1950s and everything, like a lot of people had good jobs and they with one person could feed an entire family. Then
Yes.
inflation happened and outsourcing happened because the companies, like I think it was like General Motors, like they wanted to make a lot of money, like they wanted to make huge profits, but it came at the expense of the American workers, you know?
Once one company does it, okay, we have in a country built on competition, an economy built on competition. Some people say it's terrible. I think it's what's built the strongest economy in the world. By the way, we're still the strongest economy, not by much, but we're still the strongest economy in the world. Okay, it was built on competition, and it brought the standard of living of Americans way higher than most of the rest of the world. I mean, dramatically higher. You go to Europe, and these people live in little tiny houses. Okay, and you go to the average American, and the house is just dramatically larger. And they go, how is that possible? Because of the economy of the American economy. But the competition is what's made it that way. So here's the problem. If you've got 5 companies basically making the same thing, all right, one company takes their labor to another country. Okay, they lose their shirt for the first couple of years because the labor is not skilled. Okay, but after a couple of years, the labor is skilled. All right, so during that time, there's such a differential between what they're paying and what the guy in America is paying that the next guy has no choice. If he wants to stay in business, he's got to go get that cheap labor too. So now you got 2 of them overseas. And you got the 3 of them here. The 3 of the other ones go, it's nothing. I have no choice. You know, they're going out of business. No one's buying their product because their product costs twice as much as the other guys. And the reason it's cost, I mean, not twice as much, but 25% more. Okay. It costs 25%. And if you're talking about a $20,000, $30,000 item, 25% is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. It really is. And if you're making, if there's 25% difference, okay, you can't compete. You have no choice but to do the same thing they did. And pretty soon you start seeing all the jobs go out. You have to have protection at the borders. And that's the referee's job. You know, I'm so sorry.
This is a very important conversation because right now a lot of Americans are grappling with the idea of how do we maintain the standard of living, because like in the 1950s and 1960s, one person like could basically have a job and feed an entire family. Now the father and the mother both have to go, and they're still going into debt to maintain the same standard of living. So this has become an actual problem.
Oh, it's no doubt it's a problem all across. And who's raising the kids? Okay, and the kids are taught by the schools without the parents' values, is for the most part. And it used to be the local community values, and that made strong values for the kids. So I'm an American. I believe in basic freedom. I believe in competition. I believe in freedom of religion, and in our school system. And I would say most of the teachers are good people, but they're part of the teachers' unions, and the teachers' unions are led by people that don't share American values for the most part, and it's pretty scary. And so they've taken the teachers' union values and try to teach them in the school system. And this goes all the way back to John Dewey, the guy that invented the Dewey Decimal System, and Columbia University. And there's not enough time on this call to go through all of it, but it's actually a change in values that's taken place, where the kids are not getting their values from their parents. They're getting them basically from the internet and from the school, and you're not getting the values that made America great, in my opinion. And so my kids never went to public school until they were adults. Okay, and adults, they can, that once they're adults, they can make up their own mind. But we homeschooled and private schooled our kids. People say, "Oh, you're rich." No, we're not. Are you kidding me? We sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed. It's a lot of hard work to do that, but we did it. Okay, because we wanted our kids to get our values, not this teachers union value. Okay, It's just as far as that goes. And I don't want to attack anybody here, but it's just I want old-fashioned American values. Okay, and and there are some old-fashioned American values that are trash. We know those are trash, and we don't want those. But we're talking about the normal values. Yes, there was a lot of racism that took place 200 years ago. Okay, but we're not living 150, 200 years ago. Okay, and most of that stuff, not all, but most of it's changed. We elected a black president twice, not once, but twice. Okay, whether you like his politics or not, I like the fact that we elected a black president twice. So don't tell me that Americans don't hold down of people of different races. I mean, you go look at our college; they're full of people from other countries. I mean, just full, and are all across the country. So yes, racism was a big problem in the past, and there's still some racism. It's never going to go away. You don't fix racism with racism, okay? Which I don't want to get too deep into that. But anyways, I'd love to talk more about CupRoyale.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we could go on and on about it, but ultimately, yeah, like the American standard of living is being threatened. You know, like we're going deeper and deeper into debt. The outsourcing of jobs is there. And yeah, it's something that's much deeper. The only question is it going to be a political issue or is it going to be a grassroots movement? Like in my opinion, you know?
I would love to see a grassroots movement, but the point of the matter is you can't buy an American-made car unless the name of it's Kia. It's what? Kia's made in Georgia. Okay. Some of the Toyotas are made in California. Okay. They're basically assembled. They're not really made. They're assembled. But the old American standard names pretty much are built somewhere else. And that's pretty scary. Okay. Those were great industries. And just go, you know, the core basis of just about every industry in the world was here in the United States. And we've sent it elsewhere. And so until we decide that our economy is worth salvaging and the American job is worth salvaging, okay, it's never going to be fixed. And the politicians have to say, okay, they're the referees. The politicians are the referees. I'd like to give you a real quick story.
They're pretty bad referees then, because they're just taking the can down the road, waiting for the next politician to basically fix it. But then that person hits the can down the road and keeps going on and on until it's going to explode at some point, you know?
Yes. And so that's the reality is they're creating. If you were to take a football game, okay, and play it like we've played international trade, okay? I'm going to use China because it's the biggest example. All right, let's suppose you went and got the best football team that was out there. Now, every year it's different, but if you would go back about 7 or 8 years ago and take the New England Patriots, they won more championships at that time than anybody else. So we're going to put the New England Patriots on one side, the best we can bring together. Not today's New England Patriots, but the New England Patriots of a few years ago when they were, you know, Tom Brady was over there and they were just, you know, Gronk was still playing. This is the same one. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play China. All right. Okay. With the same rules that we do business. Okay. At that time, a factory worker in America was making about $15 an hour. Okay. A factory worker. And that time, you were paying about 50 cents an hour for a Chinaman. Okay. So you can get 30-to-1 ratio. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up 11 men on the field. Okay. For the New England Patriots. And we're going to line up 330 Chinese on the other side of the field.
Wow.
Okay. Now, the New England Patriots has to play by all the NFL rules. Okay. The Chinese team doesn't have to play any of those rules. They do whatever they want. There's no such thing as offsides to them. So they can line up in the middle of the New England Patriots. So when they hike the ball, they're going to hand it to the Chinese. Okay. And 300 of them are going to run over those 11 players. Right? This is the same way we did trade. We did business. Okay. There's no chance. The New England Patriots would be slaughtered. Everybody would watch the first game because it would be cool to watch. Then the next week, all the ones that forgot to watch the first one were going to watch it because it's going to be really cool to watch. The third game, nobody cares. It's not a competition anymore. Okay? It's 300 Chinamen running over 11 football players.
That is such an interesting analogy, and it's so true, you know,
And
because that's basically what has happened to our trade
pretty soon
altogether.
the NFL is out of business. Now, all the players are out of business, all the coaches are out of business, all the people that sell teams and shirts and hats and all that, they're out of business. All the groceries, all the lawyers, all the agents, all the car manufacturers, all those jobs that are associated with the NFL are gone. All of them, because we played the same way we trade. And it's moronically stupid. Okay. And the referees are the politicians, and they're not doing their job. We hire them to do their job, to make it fair and
But
right.
they're bought out by lobbyists, and the lobbyists want to make profits, and it's not in their interest to, think about the people.
Yep.
So
Now that I've given my political opinion and probably lost half the people here, but anyways,
no, I mean we're trying to bring financial freedom to the 99%, and we need to get to the root cause of things to basically solve the issues. So
you're right. You can't fix a problem if you don't know what the problem is.
yeah, so we have to get to the root cause, because Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It's about financial
Yes.
freedom. So I'm glad that you gave your understanding of this. But
So
Ralph,
if you
yeah, go
if you
ahead.
want to get rid of your financial problems, there's no easy solution. But let me give you a 2 to 3 year solution. Invest $25,000 in CupRoyale. In my opinion, because I can't say for a fact, it's illegal to say it's a fact, but it's a risk. Okay. But in my opinion, you will make a major return, and you will make what I call generational, wealth return, where the legacy of your children and grandchildren will see improve and grow forever and ever and ever, as long as men are on this planet, and women are on this planet. CupRoyale will continue to go. The oldest organized sport in the world is the America's Cup. It's a sailboat race. So we're creating the first ever powerboat race all the way around the world, but we're structuring it like a combination of the America's Cup, Formula One, and the Tour de France. But the actual structure is very much similar to the American NFL, but instead of it being cities, it's nations. And that brings out that patriotic rivalry that people are willing to fight and die for. And that's what makes them want to fight for it. And that's what makes the rich with gigantic egos want to pay lots of money for these teams that are going to only go up in value, like the NFL teams have escalated in value. And so all of this it's basically years of research accumulated into such a way as to bring in a multi-billion-dollar opportunity into a $1.1 trillion economy, or not economy, $1.1 trillion segment of international competitive sports. And we
Ralph,
think this is
where can the audience go to get more knowledge and information about CupRoyale?
best thing to do is email me, Ralph, R-A-L-P-H, at CupRoyale.com. Ralph, R-A-L-P-H, at Cup, CupRoyale.com. Okay, Royale is like, as in, is a French word for royalty, or American word for most extreme. Okay, Royale, like most extreme. So Cup meaning tournament or race. Royale, like most extreme, so it's the most extreme race in the world. It's a powerboat race all the way around the world, broken into 20 segments in the ocean, 20 segments in harbors, and it's tailored to fit a sporting audience. And that's what we have, the 2020 hindsight of looking at everything that the sporting industry has done to make themselves super successful. And so we've gone through basically the banquet, a whole pile of stuff out for the banquet. And we've picked the things that work best for different people, different teams. And we all brought all of that into CupRoyale. And so we think it's a huge opportunity. So if you want to make generational wealth, no guarantee, it's legally a risk, reach out to me, Ralph at CupRoyale.com.
Ralph, thank you so much for sharing this opportunity with the audience. And I would definitely want my audience to take a look at this, because yes, what you're saying is true. And yeah, boat racing is a huge thing, So, Ralph, is there any other projects that you're doing other than CupRoyale that you might want the audience to get a glimpse into?
That's primarily what I'm working on. Okay,
Okay,
that's it. That's what I'm working on. Cup Royale. Now I'm involved. I go to church. I'm involved in that kind of stuff and other things like that. But those aren't the projects that you're thinking of. Business wise, I'm working on Cup Royale.
that
Okay.
is that is awesome, Ralph. And Ralph, I could go on and converse with you about the different things of the economy, but right now the hour is coming to a close, and I want to I want to thank you so much for like taking the time to come to this podcast and like sharing all of your knowledge and all of that. And I definitely want to have you on the show at a later time, you know?
Thank you so much. Thank
No,
you.
thank you,
Thank
Ralph.
you. This
And
is a great chance to talk. Probably blow off a little too much steam, but thank you so much.
no, of course. And I want to conclude this podcast by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us. It's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now.